Hey everybody, getting a little late start here, but we'll get going here in a second. Hopefully everybody can hear me. Okay, sounds like I can be heard. Greg Parker is here. Hey Greg. Let me just grab some materials here. Here we go, while you guys are waiting. Commission I've been working on, Ultra Mega. Pretty much done now. This is one of the ones for my Kickstarter backers. Which I guess, I don't know, sometimes I keep them a secret until I'm sending them to people, but we got some time, it's going to pass before these are going to be ready to go out. So I'm going to go ahead and show off some of them as I get them done. Ultra Mega just finished up. I got the last issue, but I haven't read it yet. I've looked through it, but I haven't read it yet. Nick Forrest is here. Good evening, sir. Sorry to miss the last show, he says. No worries. Kova's Lookout is here. Oh, snap. That's dope, man. Thank you so much. Yeah, I just finished, like I said, I just got the last issue, but I haven't read it yet. Let me see if I can get this brighter. That's better. So tonight we're going to talk about the Chicago Alternative Comics Expo. I got a bunch of goodies I'll show off from there. But how are all you doing? Greg Parker says, dude, that's so good. Thank you. Kova's Lookout says, I love Ultra Mega. Thank you. Well, hey, we got 5 folks here already. That's great. Yeah, this one was really fun. James's work is really cool. He does a lot of really neat illustration techniques. I was debating maybe showing some Ultra Mega off tonight, but we might just stick with the books I got at C.A.K.E just for time's sake. But this one came together last night and today. I've been in kind of a rut trying to get back to commissions because I've been working on other stuff. And I hadn't done a 9x12 commission in a long time because I've really been only doing a lot of 11x17s and 6x9s just because that's what people have been asking for. But for some reason I made the 9x12s for the commission list for Harris. Just gonna rub a little bit of this off here with my sand eraser. So yeah, we got some zips on there. I had these POSC pens I wanted to do some stuff with. So yeah, tonight, here, Nick Forrest, we finally gave the nephews your sketch covers. Oh, that's great, man. The youngest nephew is obsessed with your Black Panther cover. Thank you so much. I had a lot of fun with that Black Panther cover, Nick, so thank you so much for giving me an update on how folks were enjoying it. So tonight we're going to look through some stuff that I got at C.A.K.E. So not last weekend, but the weekend before, I mentioned to some of you guys that I'd be at C.A.K.E. I showed the zine that I've been working on, which I sold quite a few of them. I have a few left, but before I make them available on my website, there's a few spelling errors I didn't catch in time for C.A.K.E. that I caught after I printed it. So I think I'm going to print a few more with those errors fixed, and then I'll hopefully make them available to other people. So that is one thing, was that. But I got a bunch of other really cool books. And so first I'll just talk a little bit about C.A.K.E. and then maybe we'll go through some of these books and take a look at what we got here. It's a fun show. I always feel like I find a lot of new artists I haven't heard of there, or good stuff by other artists I have followed and maybe only see at shows. So C.A.K.E. is the Chicago Alternative Comics Expo. There's a little thank you card I got. And from the organizers, who are all very great people. I was an organizer last year, and the year before, and the year before, and the year before. Even though we only had a couple shows in that time, I was an organizer for a few years. And it was really fun being an organizer, but it was great this year to be back on the other side of the table. So C.A.K.E. is the Chicago Alternative Comics Expo. It's been happening here in Chicago for, I think almost 12 years now, something like that. It depends on how you count the years, since we didn't have a show a couple of years because of COVID stuff. And I've been a part of the show pretty much every year. And last year I didn't table at all. I just did organizing. And so this year was nice to be back to just tabling. Maybe I saw some of you there, maybe not, but it was a very cool show. It's more of an indie show, right? So a lot of people might know me from shows like C2E2 or Emerald City Comic Con or Heroes Con. And those tend to be a little more focused on, I guess what you'd call mainstream comics that are more widely distributed by, the more major, or I guess I should say like the more traditional publishers. But the great thing about shows like C.A.K.E, and there's a lot of them like C.A.K.E, there's SPX, there's CXC, there's Mice, there's Dink, there's Camp, there's a bunch of alternative comics fests all over the country, is that you really get what I think is like the real juice, the real cutting edge comics, like the stuff that, people are doing that don't need to do it for money a lot. Sometimes they are doing it for money. I mean, we're all doing it for money, right? But they're doing it because they love it. I mean, for years I was an artist that, did most of my work at these shows because when you have a day job and you're making work on the side, you can't make as much work to really go to a lot of big shows all the time. But what you can do is you can make exactly the kind of work you want to make because there's a lot less pressure on it. And so you get these weird and amazing comics that are stuff you would never see published on a larger scale because they are so inventive and interesting or off the beaten path as far as the topics. And I'm trying not to stereotype because I feel like you're going to find any kind of comic at C.A.K.E. There's going to be action comics and adventure comics. There's going to be autobio comics and trippy psychedelic comics. There's a little bit of everything. But I think if I was talking to somebody who's never been to a show like C.A.K.E, I would just play up that it's going to be a lot of a variety of stylistic variations and a large variety of topics and subject matter, but maybe leaning more towards stuff that is slightly more counterculture than it is pop culture. And that's not to say there's no pop culture at C.A.K.E either. There is, but there's a lot more counterculture represented there. And that's why I like the show a lot. Speaking of cool stuff in Chicago, though, the Howling Page is a little one-page thing put out by the Howling Pages comic book store, which is an awesome store that I'm trying to put together maybe a little signing or something at. If you've never been to the Howling Pages shop here in Chicago, it's in Portage Park. It's awesome. It's worth, if you're even in the Chicago area, I would say it's worth a drive in for an hour or two because it's got just it's a small shop, but it's so well curated with great selection of stuff. So I might try to do a signing there. I was talking to Alan, the owner, and hopefully we can put something together. But this is a cool little thing that he put out. They were there at C.A.K.E, so I picked that up from them. I don't even know what order to go in here. We'll just kind of grab stuff. This is the new issue of Pocket Cemetery by my buddy Landis Blair, who always, kind of tables with me at shows. He's a really good friend of mine, and now he lives nearby, which is great. He's one of my closest comic friends, and he releases these little volumes of drawings he does of different trees and scenery and mausoleums that are in cemeteries all across the country. And so it's a little book of these really amazing crosshatch drawings of Landis's from all these different cemeteries. And then in the back, he has a guide to each page which cemetery it was at. And so, you can go to these places in theory and see each one of the things that he's drawing. He doesn't tell you exactly which part of the cemetery he's drawing, but sometimes they're pretty iconic things. Landis's work is amazing, and if you haven't checked out Landis's work, I've talked about him a bunch on here, but just go to landisblair.com, and he has just really amazing stuff. His work is completely unique to him, but at the same time, it evokes a lot of things that, might be nostalgic for some people. I know for me, things like Edward Gorey, things like Maurice Sendak, things like even Shel Silverstein to some degree, and then this cross-hatching, which makes you think of Crumb and all kinds of different things. It's really wonderful work. And these pocket cemeteries and a lot of his mini comics he sends out via his mailing list, like physical copies to people. And I think you can sign up for that for a pretty small fee. It's kind of like, I don't know if it's a Patreon or what it is, but he sends you these little books every however often he comes out with them. But he's a lovely human being, and I could not say enough nice things about him and his work. So he deserves your hard-earned money. Let's check in with the chat here. Perrin has some dope shape language. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I would say that. Show and Tell Time is my fave. I need to get Landis's book. You do. All right. One of the first things I wanted to run over and grab when I got to the show, even though I wasn't an organizer this year, I was a juror for the C.A.K.E Award. So the C.A.K.E Award is something that we do every year at C.A.K.E. And I say we, I guess it's them now because I'm not necessarily an organizer. But I wasn't an organizer this year, but I was one of the jurors for the C.A.K.E Award. And I won't get into how that process works. I think it's really great and a really awesome and amazing way to jury the thing. And you get so many amazing... It's hard because all the people that submitted for this award, it was really amazing. So the idea of the C.A.K.E Award is that if you are an artist that is trying to kind of develop your skills, maybe you're earlier in your career, you could be any age, but early in your career of making comics and you've never been published before, but we think that your stuff is really awesome, the C.A.K.E Award is sort of like a grant. We give you a small amount of money and also pair you up with a more well-established comics creator for a mentorship program. And I was a mentor a couple years ago, and that was really fun. And so this year the winner was Millie St. John, from a cartoonist from Maine. And when I saw Millie's work, I was immediately just like, oh man, this is so cool. Like, it's so different and unique and fresh. And so I went over to her table and was so excited to meet her and grab her work, and she was extremely awesome and nice to talk to. And the work, I'm not sure how well some of it will read on here, but she's doing all these interesting things with kind of like shapes and colors and kind of iconographic drawing. There's almost like a graffiti flair to it, which I really connect with. There's these free, thick lines and then these really poppy color juxtapositions. These white outlines are really cool. And I like the simplicity of information, at least amount of information on each page. So, we're talking small panel counts here with really big characters within them, but they all have so much style and flair. And a lot of the stuff that Millie does is up to this point has been kind of like this. I love her hand lettering and stuff. Oh my gosh. This is the thing you don't see in mainstream comics that I just love, and that's hand lettering and hand sound effects. I love it so much. And so when I go to indie shows and I see all these beautiful hand lettering, it's like I just love seeing people's different ways of writing things. Like, that's their hand making those marks, and there's something so special about that. So that's Millie St. John's little book, and then she had a little art zine that came with that. Her style gets a little bit more delicate and dense in this, where there's a little more line density. Still nothing like hatching. It's still very cartooned with the colors doing a lot of it, separating things. But I love the way she styles these ears and stuff. So that's cool. And then this is a preview of the comic project she's working on as part of the C.A.K.E Award right here. And it's And Up They Sprung. And this is wild, man, because this is it. I look at this and it's still got a lot of the same stuff, but I can tell already that Millie is this is one of the things that was exciting to me, is that I really connected with the stuff I was showing before, and I thought that looked great. But when I saw that Millie was already starting to shift styles and try new things because it's a different project, I was like, man, that's so cool. I don't like it when people are a slave to their style. I think that you want it to adapt and change. And so, again, it's still got all the things I liked. It's got the hand-drawn lettering, the kind of maybe slightly graffiti influence on some of that. I mean, I don't know if she's into graffiti. I didn't ask. I should have. And then there's another thing you don't get at mainstream shows, these saddle-stitched books. I used to saddle-stitch my books. And look at this. This is really nice cartooning here. Really awesome stuff. Cool panel arrangements. She's sort of implying these decorative elements that you get in churches or graves and stuff, but without overdoing it with the detail, just implying it with these shapes. Really cool stuff, man. So Millie St. John, at Millie St. John, definitely check out Millie. So what you're telling me is I need to get a 9x12 commission with your hand lettering and sound effects. Yeah, man, absolutely. Hey, Ictus, what's up, Total Excellence? Yeah, sort of, Ashkans. I would say just another note on the printing and binding on this. It is hand-stitched, which I think is lovely. I used to do artist books and stuff and make my own. When I did my comics, I would do stuff like hand-stitch. But I believe this is also like a Riso print. I believe this is a Riso print. And the paper isn't thick and toothy with a little off-white. Like, the attention to detail you get in the book Objects at a show like C.A.K.E is so fun. You know, everybody puts these really thoughtful decisions into what their book should look like. Instead of just being like, oh, this is the shape of a comic and it's this many pages, here's my comic. Like, everybody is thinking about what their books should look like. Which, you know what? Why don't I show off this one here? Here's my friend Andrea Pearson, who is also a former C.A.K.E organizer. And she runs a distro called, oh geez, what is it called? aquaticpandadistro.com, and they distribute indie comics. So if you're looking for some of these comics that I pulled out tonight, Aquatic Panda Distro probably has them. And she does these little cute kind of, I guess you call them auto-bio comics, but they're very sort of cartoony and humor is played up. But this one's really cute, and it is this simple book form. I used to do comics like this too. That this comic is made out of one piece of paper, which I'll show you in a minute. But it's just sort of thoughts on her body. It's kind of vacillates between sort of the a lot of her work vacillates kind of between the maybe anxiety or self-judgment we all put on ourselves, but at the same time it feels like there's always an acceptance to it, not at the end, but in each drawing there's like this acceptance of it as well. That's like a peacefulness, which is really nice. But yeah, this is just a little foldy comic. It's made out of one piece of paper. It's one of the first comics you should learn how to make. Here's what she has on her inside. So you have this. That's the other cool thing with these foldy comics is you have a secret image on the inside that no one would see if they didn't take it apart. So you just slice it down the middle. Well, you fold it, into thirds and then in half, and then you slice it down the middle, and then it turns into a book. And that's kind of like the easiest comic you could make. So if you just want to get your work out there at a show and you want something free to give to people, you can make a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 page, depending on how you do the cover, with one hidden image comic with one piece of paper and two copies, two runs to the copy machine. And so this is a great little form factor, and it has a handmade feel to it, so it's going to stand apart from a business card. Pretty great. Although you should pay for comics that size too. I did pay for that comic. But Andrea's great. She's so cool and awesome, and can't wait to see what else she works on. So let's see. Here we go. Let's do this one. This is James Robinson. The Pitiful Life of James Robinson, and it's by Chris Mate. And you know what, Chris, if you're watching, I'm not sure if you are. I'm sorry if I pronounced your name wrong, but Chris was my neighbor. So on one side of me I had Landis, the other side of me I had Chris. And Chris and I had never met, but he was a really nice guy and a lot of fun to table next to. And I got to check out some of his work. And it's pretty wild. It's like, this is an older piece by him. This was from 2020, but I didn't want to start at the end, so I got the first one. But it's kind of about this guy's life, and there's a lot of storytelling done through just imagery on this and paneling, which I'm a huge fan of. Like, these are some really fun panel arrangements and cool ways to show, different things within, different spaces. I like how he overlays panels on things. This is a fun sort of him going down this elevator thing. And it's sort of him just going through his day, and he's kind of a loser. It's kind of absurd. It's sort of an absurd comic in a lot of ways. And funny, but in sort of a depressing way. He becomes friends with this robot, but the robot doesn't even want to be around him. Anyway, Chris was awesome, and he had some really other great work there. I should have picked up a few more things, but this is another cool one where he did it by stapling the paper together, so he has a nice cover stock and then just regular copy paper in the middle, copy paper in the middle, and then he wrapped it in this kind of like bookbinding tape to give it sort of a perfect bound look. And this is an aesthetic, right? And it's a nice aesthetic, right? If you are self-publishing, there's so many things you can do to make your book just look a little nicer. That just require a little extra effort on your part, whereas in traditional publishing, it requires a lot more money to do the nice looking things. But there's always a way to spruce it up a little bit. Here's another one. My buddy Andrew came by the show. Andrew Masisco. He's an artist here in Chicago as well. We featured him in the Speculative Relationships Volume 3, but he's done a lot since then. And he's got really nice work. He works primarily digitally, but I think that he finds a really nice balance of the way he uses his brushes and his line weights and his color palettes to help things feel kind of fresh and poppy. I love this illustration. Very beautiful. I think he just did a Kickstarter earlier this year that was for a tabletop RPG type game. I can't remember the name of it right now. But Andrew Masisco, you need to check out his work. This is a great image too. So we're buddies, and he lives nearby, but for some reason I didn't have this yet. He was at the show, so I got one of these. Kova's Lookout. I did that for Heroes Con this year. I printed ash cans of my new comic and hand stapled them and handed them out the show. That's so awesome, Kova. I wish I could have been there so I could have gotten one. I bet they looked great. I love getting things like that, and it sticks with me. I still have stuff that I got 15 years ago, and that I look at. I pull them out. I have all these minis and these little weird comics. They're a pain in the butt to store because they don't fit in anything correctly. So I sort of have them bagged by size, which I hate because I want them. But luckily, a lot of the artists, they'll use a lot of the same sizes. But I have them bagged by size and then kind of Tetrised into a long box. So that's how I store them. Speaking of somebody who's always messing with sizes and making my collecting life difficult, this is some work by my friend Malachi Ward, although I didn't get this from Malachi. So if anybody asks, I didn't get this from Malachi, but this is some work that Malachi did. Malachi was one of the special guests at C.A.K.E this year, and I've known Malachi for quite a while now that I think about it. Like, we met way back in 09, maybe 2009 or 2010, and mostly corresponded via email and me being a fan of his work, and then we've hung out in person now a few times, and he's a really good dude, really a solid dude. I wish I could have seen you more at the show, Malachi. Sorry, I had a crazy weekend that weekend. Had family in town, blah, blah, blah. But Malachi's stuff is beautiful, and his ideas about sci-fi stuff are amazing. Maybe I'll do like a Malachi feature one of these days. A lot of people know his work from a book he did with Matt Sheehan called Ancestor, which is fantastic. And that was from Island, which was the anthology magazine that Brandon Graham did. And then before that, Malachi and Matt worked on the Prophet series that Brandon Graham and Simon Roy did. But I knew of Malachi's work from a book called Expansion that he self-published that I picked up from him at Ape back in, I think, 2009 or 2010. And I'd been following his work ever since then. He's done tons of minis. He worked on Black Hammer is another thing people know him by. He just finished up work on Black Hammer. He does covers for the Star Trek comics. But what's crazy is that a lot of people will say his covers for the Star Trek comics, which are very representational. But his style runs the gamut. He does stuff that's super cartooned. He does stuff that's a little bit more like this. I would call sort of a naturalistic sci-fi style, illustrative style. But he's all over the place with style, which is so fun. And like one of his books called what is it called? Well, the second issue is called The Ritual. I think the whole series is called The Ritual, and that one has like such a great sense of lighten. I need to just do a feature on his work. I love Malachi's work, and I feel like people know him for like his Star Trek covers, and that's like such a tiny piece of all the work that he's done. But he has these crazy science fiction ideas and situations in his books, and just will do things like, this is like a medical thing that kind of looks 1800s, but there's all these aliens here observing it. He finds some great imagery, and just a really smart, awesome person. And then speaking of smart, awesome people, Kova's Lookout. I think I gave you a Spider-Man one last year. Oh, okay, yeah. You know what? I do remember that. So, what was this year's? Last year's was Was that last year's? Was Spider-Man. But speaking of wonderful people that give me awesome things, this is from my friend Marnie Galloway. Marnie Galloway is so awesome. One of my favorite comics artists in Chicago, and just a lovely, lovely person that I've known, again, probably since 2011, maybe. I think I met Marnie at the first or second C.A.K.E, which was at Columbia College, and Marnie's been making work since then. And a lot of Marnie's work will focus on memoir or, kind of autobio, personal experiences. But there's always fantastical elements mixed in and fantastical imagery. Lots of references to forces of nature and the earth and wildlife sometimes. And Marnie's also an instructor of comics at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. And to see Marnie's work over the years has been really amazing. She's at this point now where she has such a command of graphic sort of storytelling and graphic image making, where between solid blacks, line work, and stippling and hatching, she creates depth and texture. It's sort of this perfect toolbox that she's created with her style, where she can have these beautiful sort of hatched little leaves, and then have this foreground of just silhouettes, and in the middle these really cleanly cartooned figures. And then she can bounce between a kind of a natural style like she has here with these more, look at this clean line style she's got here, these crazy paneling she's doing. And it sort of goes through her life and the ups and downs of being a mom and a parent, and things I'm sure a lot of people can relate to, myself included. And captures it in a way that I don't feel can be captured anywhere else but comics, and captures that feeling in a way that is really suited for comics, because it's cerebral but also emotional and very personal and very intimate, raising a child. And then she can bounce from that to, these super crosshatchy things. I love the way she portrays the rain here with the dotted lines with the little drop at the end. It's like an icon of rain. It's not, a lot of times I feel like I'm trying to, and this is a grand pursuit as well, but a lot of times I'm trying to emulate something like rain, right? I'm trying to make marks that evoke rain, whereas this is very clearly saying, I am a raindrop, and I am coming down the sky, ... And someday I'd like to be better at trying to get that kind of clarity of, that's really cartooning, right? Whereas what I do a lot of times falls more into what I might call illustration as far as the techniques I'm using. And cartooning, I think, is much more about representing things with these icons, these what do you call them? Shorthand for things. And then these little chibi Marnies. I love these little chibi Marnies here, where she's just rolling through her anxiety and everything. Really lovely work. If you've never checked out Marnie's work, she does really incredible work. One of the works that she and my friend Isabella Rotman and Sage Coffee did is nominated for an Eisner this year, actually. So Marnie was on that at the abortion pill zine that they did, all three of them together. Really great work. So check out Marnie as well. So that's sort of what my cake haul was like. Kova's Lookout says here, this year was a creator-owned book. I'm Kickstartering. My campaign goes up on the 10th. Awesome. Well, send me a link when you get it. I'd love to see it or help you get the word out, if that spread the word a little bit. Send me a link. I will forget if you don't. Okay, so it's been quite a day over here. Like I started late, but I did want to take the time to go through everything that happened at C.A.K.E, and I talked to so many amazing people, and I wanted to say thanks to all the organizers. They did a fantastic job. It was at the Irish American Heritage Museum, and it was a really lovely space, and I feel like I felt comfortable, and I had a really good time. It's a lot of work organizing a show, and it's sort of thankless in a lot of ways. So if you ever do go to a little indie show, or even a big show, but especially a little indie show, all those people are doing it for no money. They're all volunteers, and it's stressful, and there's not a lot of money to budget things. So you're always trying to find the best way to help everybody. So if you ever go to an indie show and you see an organizer, just take a second and say, hey, thanks for putting this together, and thanks for your time. Because these little shows are essential for not just for people that make this kind of work to have an audience, but for this work to be made at all, and so that it can continue to push comics forward, right? Because as much as I like stuff like this, it's not always the thing that's pushing the medium forward. It might be telling me some great stories within the medium, but I like the work that you see at these shows because there are these people like me and the way I used to be, especially, where you're just like, it's your passion and you're doing what you want, and there's no rules because you're doing it for yourself, and so you really push the boundaries of what can be done. So I treated myself because I finished up a project. I think you guys have heard I have a 10-page story in Fantastic Four Fanfare number 10, and I didn't really celebrate, and I was like, you know what, I've been eyeing this Aliens Epic Collection. So as many people know, Aliens and Predator are now part of Marvel, which is part of Disney, which is crazy. But before that, the Aliens and Predator stuff was licensed to Dark Horse, and that stuff's gotten harder to find because it's been out of print. But Marvel has been putting out these epic collections, and they've only done it for Aliens, and there's 2 volumes out, I think. I really hope they do it for Predator, because the Predator stuff is really hard to find. But these are stacked with awesome creators. If you see, they're a little pricey, but not only do they have all the Dark Horse stuff, but it includes things like covers and the printing. They did a great job with the printing. They didn't go back and mess up the colors on things. It all looks really fantastic, and it is thick. It's a lot of pages. And this collects a bunch of different things: Alien Genocide, Aliens Hive, Alien Tribes, Newt's Tale, Dark Horse Presents, a bunch of different things. So I just wanted to flip through a few of these and show off some things. One of the main things I liked about picking this up is the stories are mostly good in this volume. Some of them I have pieces of them, like I have Newt's Tale, which is probably the weakest one in here, and I have some of Hive. But what I don't have is all these have all the covers reprinted and stuff. And the first one, this has an amazing cover on the first one. So it includes a lot of that stuff, and some stuff I hadn't seen. Like, this is a black and white Aliens story I had never seen, and it's kind of reads almost like an Aliens fanfic. It's from Dark Horse Insider. It's basically the same idea. They go to this, installation. There's aliens there. They got to get out. They're in the rain. It feels like they use a lot of movie reference for this, even though none of the imagery really looks ripped from the movie. It just seems like there's nothing new added. But it's a neat little story. It's just like a little black and white story. It's got some this page is pretty neat. Looks like a video game cover or something. But this other one they have in here, here's one they have by Simon Bisley. And check this Frank Miller Lynn Varley cover out. That's pretty cool. Kova says, will do, appreciate that. But man, those comics you're showing are dope. I tabled an indie show earlier this year and picked up some great stuff. That's awesome. That's so cool. If you guys have never gone to an indie show, there's definitely one probably around you. I mean, there's more of them than there is anything else, probably, as far as like shows. And they're always fun. This Simon Bisley one is nuts, dude. Apparently he didn't color this, but the colors are so wild too. And it's just, I don't know how there was ever even any kind of script for this. It doesn't really make any sense. It's just awesome drawings of alien stuff, and the aliens are totally off model, which I love. This old Dark Horse stuff, they gave people a lot of freedom to kind of cartoon the aliens instead of making them like straight on model every time, the way it is in the Marvel stuff now, which is just puts me asleep, man. Like, why do you want to see that? Watch the movie. But it's cool. I have no idea what this Simon Bisley one is about, but it is so crazy and cool. It's just full of amazing stuff. He's got this sort of... He's using screen tones, but some other kind of screen tones that I don't know what they are. This one's cool because it shows a different take on the engineers. So in the Ridley-verse version of Alien, there's these engineers that come down, and so the space jockey was an engineer in a spacesuit. But in this comic, this is before Prometheus, the engineers looked like, you know, the space jockeys, right? They were the space jockeys. Like, so it wasn't a mask they were wearing. That was what their face looked like. And this is kind of a crazy story. It's in the future when humankind has sort of destroyed the planet. And then they go, and this is right out of Prometheus, though, which is funny. He smashes up these droids. He goes ape on these droids. But they're trying to come to some agreement with these aliens who want the planet, and so they didn't want us to blow it up. I don't know. And then look at this this awesome cover by... I never know how to say this guy's name. I think it's Soidam. Or Saidam, I don't know. Arthur Suidam. I wish I knew. I should have looked it up. But look at this. This one, the art is up and down, but this page right here, that is such a dope alien. Some really cool colors. This is Aliens Genocide. I haven't read the whole thing yet. I had read some of it earlier, but it's basically after this war, which I think might be relating to the previous story. These two different factions of aliens rise up with two different queens and sort of have to go to war with each other, and humans are in the middle of it, is what I remember. So it's a John Arcudi joint with Mike Richardson, and penciler is Damon Willis, inker Carl Story. Well, there you go. Carl Story is an incredible inker. So this one's pretty cool too. I haven't read it yet, so I don't want to... But, I mean, look at some of these images, man. Some of these pages are super, super cool. I have vague memories of this one from when I was a kid, along with some of the early Terminator stuff and Predator stuff. But there's these red aliens and these kind of greenish aliens. Complementary colors, get it? And then there is Alien Hive, which is in here. I think this one is Hive, right? And this one I showed off on a stream in the past. I think this issue, Hive number 1. But this has the whole series in here. And it's Kelly Jones, which, I mean, Kelly Jones rules. Again, you'd never see this now in an Alien comic, because I know for a fact they're going to tell you, oh, well, you drew the fingers wrong and this isn't right. And what a shame, right? What a shame to have this kind of person and make them draw it boring. But this Kelly Jones stuff is one of the big reasons I bought this one. Kova says that I watched the new Alien movie. The show looks like it might be good as well. I watched Romulus, and there were some things I liked about it. I liked the practical effects. There were some good performances in it. Some really good cinematography. I can't say I loved it as far as Alien movies go, but I didn't hate it, you know? And I really liked the practical effects. The guy who played the android was a great performance. The aliens looked cool, you know, it had a lot of good things going for it, some good gore. But look at these Kelly Jones pages. Ugh! Just the shapes, the black shapes, but then the texture he gets with, you know, hatching. Oh, it's like, it feels both like realistic and cartooned, and it feels both intricate and simple, because he's got big black shapes and white shapes, but then he also has these hatchings and these screen tones on things. Look at this spaceship. That is so cool. Here's the people. Look at this. You know, you can see the Corbin influence on his stuff. You can see the influence of you know, a lot of European artists, but also people like Bernie Wrightson. Look at this. The mouth going through this guy's head. That's nuts, man. Yeah, really cool stuff. I can't wait to kind of go back through this one and read it again. Because I don't know if I ever finished it. I remember borrowing a few issues from a buddy when I was younger. But really cool stuff. You know, Kelly Jones, man, what a beast! Just a legend. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, check that out, man. Dave Dorman. Dave Dorman did some super tight alien stuff. But look at that, man. I could go for a whole book of just all these covers and stuff. So to have this with the stories. Ugh, and the way this hot orange here, and then the cool blue. Ooh. Man, look at this. Okay, so this is a prose one called Tribes, which that's an awesome logo. Written by Steve Bissette, legend, Steve Bissette, and illustrated by Dave Dorman. It's all paintings and stuff, but these little illustrations here are great. Jeremy, I'm late but look sick. Well, you know what? I was late too. Video editing, huh? That's interesting. So we got these Dave Dorman ones here. Oh, man. I haven't read this whole thing either, but these illustrations are sick. Yes, dude. I cannot wait to just dive into this. And the printing, like I said, the printing quality, the paper's not like super heavy or anything, but it doesn't have a heavy gloss on it, which is nice. There is a little bit of a gloss, but the colors really pop. And the color reproduction, as far as I can tell from, like, I looked at my Newt's Tales that I have, the original printings, it looks as good or better than those. I mean, obviously it's on newer paper and stuff. Well, that one doesn't seem to want to go. Look at that. Really cool stuff. Bissette is a really good writer, I think. I think he's written some cool stuff. I don't know if I've ever showed Tyrant off here, but Tyrant is one of the books he wrote and drew about a dinosaur. This is great. Look at that. And then the arms up. You got these two sort of intersecting triangles here. And then up here it's just washed out. That's really nice. So dope. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm not going to ruin all that. Okay. And then we got Newt's Tale, which I already have this. I picked up from my buddy Justin, who runs a shop in This Issue Comics in Iowa. It's interesting. It came out, I think, before the director's cut came out, so it was interesting in that it shows what happens to Newt and her family before the events of Aliens. But then once, that's like the first issue, and then once you're past the first issue, it's literally just aliens. Like, it's just, I mean, almost line for line, it's aliens. Like, Ripley shows up, they go into here, let's rock, you know. Some of it's told in an interesting way where they will go silent instead of having all the lines. But you can see it's just shot for shot, kind of the same thing. So, not bad, but, you know, not the best one in here. And then these, just look at all these, man. Here's some more Dave Dorman. Jeremy Les, love that piece. Game Over Man in there. You know what? That'd be cool. Oh, this John Bolton one. I think John Bolton did some Warhammer art, if I'm not mistaken. But these John Bolton covers are so cool. They're like flat, kind of like a Klimt. It might be raining again out there. And then they also have these little, that's a little thing Kelly Jones wrote about working on Hive. You know, they got a few different things in here. Dave Dorman, Paul Johnson, Chris Halls. This Chris Halls one is crazy. This Chris Halls one too. Maybe Chris Halls, did he work on Judge Dredd stuff? It looks like Judge Dredd stuff. I'm terrible. I should know exactly who Chris Halls is, and I don't. Because this is another one. Oh, I love the way he does this with the kind of the hanging mouth. It almost looks like Pumpkinhead. Definitely got a Steve Bissette kind of Glenn Fabry vibe to it. So yeah, hopefully they'll do the aliens, the rest of the aliens with these, but hopefully too the Predator ones, because Predator Concrete Jungle is amazing and so hard to come by. Okay, so you know what? I just finished a piece today, which I showed earlier, so I'm not going to probably draw tonight because I just finished this and I just don't have anything else going yet. But I'll probably keep working on some of my Kickstarter commissions. And here's Ultra Mega. But I did pick up a bunch of other comics I haven't read. Maybe I'll flip through one of those real quick. I know which one. So I was behind on The Moon is Following Us, so I got all those. Look at this. Look at the way Dan and Mike did this together. So I've seen this original, and it might be hard to see on the camera, but if you have this issue, Dan did this beautiful impressionistic thing with, with the leaves, with the way he did it in black and white, and then Mike did the same kind of impressionistic thing with the colors and with some smart holds here and there to give it depth, and this all came together just so great. Like this is Bill Watterson here, this is Dan doing his Bill Watterson. That's good stuff. So I got those. I'm behind on Absolute Batman, so I'm excited for that. I saw Marcos Martin did a couple, which I really like his work, and I'm excited to check out Bane. Might have to draw Absolute Bane at some point. And then I never picked it up when it came out, and Dan never got any comps that I could get hands on, so I had to get this lame cover of it. No offense to whoever did this lame ass cover. But I finally picked up Dan's Wolverine story, which again, I'd seen it in real life, which is always great, but I hadn't actually seen it colored yet, and I like to have that because Mike is great. Oh wow, yeah, this turned out really nice. I wasn't sure how how Mike could color this. Like, Dan did so much zip on these pages, and I was worried about how they would print, but they printed great. I'm always curious to see, because as an artist, you're always wondering how your stuff's going to translate, and so it's nice to, sometimes I can look at someone else's work in real life, because I know them or we're hanging out, and then I can sort of compare that to what it looks like when it's in print. And I don't think Dan does much cleanup at all on his pages, so I know Mike, I don't know if Mike is doing any kind of adjustments. This is the only spot where that morayed a little bit. But yeah, I mean, this looks so great in black and white that I was almost scared for Mike to color it, even though I know he's good. And now seeing it in color, I'm like, okay, well, now it's definitely elevated. A lot of signature Danny Warren Johnson stuff, some good gore, some great little tiny panels. These little close-up shots of faces in the dark here. He did that a lot on Powerbomb, which I really love. These I want to do more of those. Maybe on this next project I'm doing. And then, of course, this horse image. Really good stuff. This was a fun one. Dan was really excited about this one. I remember talking to him about it. Everybody loves Wolverine getting beat up while saving the day kind of a thing. So that's really fun. Turned out really good. Mike is definitely just an amazing colorist. Really amazing colorist. Well, folks, I think that might be it for tonight. I think next time I'm on, I will definitely have something to be drawing, and so stay tuned for that. And like I said, I'm working on maybe getting some of the grammatical errors and stuff fixed in Prophets of Disclosure, and then I'll try to make that available. If you haven't hit the like button, that would be great if you could do that. If you could also subscribe, that would also be awesome. I guess I should have said that when more people were here, but and hey, maybe tell your friend to watch the show. Say, hey, Tyrell showed all these cool indie comics off. You should check it out. But thank you guys for tuning in. Sorry I was a little bit late. I hope everybody is doing well, and look forward to seeing more work from y'all. So have a good night.